Okay, so welcome back. Uh, Let me start with yesterday's some critical recap. So we discussed about Mitre Engage framework, and the three important component of the framework that we discussed yesterday was definitely the most important was the adversary engagement. And to achieve that goal, we used two techniques. One was deception and one was denial. And a combination of these three can be achieved only through planning and analysis and furthering the goal of deceptions for adversary engagement. Then we talked about four key goals for deception. First was deflecting the adversary away from their goals. Second was distorting adversary's perception and creating a cognitive or perceptual bias so that whatever we are doing as a part of deception strategy, it is understood that they are in the same environment and they are in safe environment and they are trying to achieve their goals. They are progressing well on their goals. So whatever we are doing as a part of deceptions, the adversaries is definitely not aware about it, and we assume that the bias that we have created by putting a right perspective, right design, a right environment for them, they are in a position to move forward with their strategy. Third one was that the most important one, particularly for advanced persistent threat, if you have created a good deception strategy and keeping them hanging on for months and years together, possibly you are depleting their financial or cognitive resources, and which can lead to many times the adversary will go off or they will expose something which is more critical or more valuable to the defender community. And last one is discover unknown vulnerabilities and new TTPs by eliciting the information from the attackers, by giving them the lures, giving them the bait, giving them the trap, and finally we know more about them. And in terms of the goals, four goals, I think one of the most important goal is not just knowing the IOCs or TTPs, but also the motives adversary. If the motives are known, then we know which asset they are getting, and we can create a breadcrumb for them so that they are taken to a new destinations rather than the destination they are looking for, and we can curtail the damage, or we can really deceive the adversary to disclose and divulge every information they carry along with them. The most important part of definition of deception is that we, as a defender, our goal is not to make the opponent think something. We have to force the opponent to do something. That is very important. Otherwise, we'll not achieve the objective of engaging the adversary. But it is not just doing something, but doing something specific thing so that they disclose and divulge every information about them. Because end goal of deception technology or adversary engagement, techniques is to know more about the enemy so that we can plan the countermeasures as per the requirement of the enemy, and we can create a trapdoor for them so that enemy can be disguised, can be killed, can be eliminated, can be exposed in a very interesting manner. It is not always necessary to make the decision maker in your target network believe in the false state of affairs that you want to project. But it is enough to make him so concerned over its likelihood that he feels he must provide for it, otherwise he will lose the battle. When you create a situations where the adversary feels like divulging the information, means you have already achieved the primary goal of deception techniques and adversary engagement. Many times action is not only important, many times non-actions is equally important. Like suppose, when you are in a battlefield, in a guerrilla warfare, there is a sniper attacks and you hear the sounds. And after that, you create a situation where suddenly sniper attacks are totally gone. which means, they are doing nothing, but still we know their positions now, and we can really cone them on, and we can knock them off when there is a need such arises. And the last one is the decision makers are the target of deceptions. The intelligence services are customer of deceptions. This is a very important, message, because when you are planning the storyboarding of a deception plan, these two concepts need to be understood very well. And as I discussed yesterday, again, deception is a planned process. It is not just technology, because technology definitely add to the process to achieve the larger goal. But in itself, it is not like fill, set and forget type of process. It is a continuous psychological operations, and it need to be very systematically planned, so that technology can provide you optimum output. Unless the storyboarding is correct, the steps have been narrated very well, the plan has been executed as per plan, it will be impossible to get the best output. So it is not like any other security tools. Deception, process is a 100% process, not just technology. Then we shared about a lot of story, some interesting story about the Buddha tree, which was a very interesting story. And then we talked about deception planning. Deception planning has got 4 very critical components. What outcome do we want to see as a result of deception? So when you plan a deception planning, you create a story. In the story, you set the steps, that who will be the characters, what will be the pocket leaders, what are the components that will be engaged for that, how the roads will be planned for them, how the adversary will be taken to the road of the defender's choice, not the offender's choice. So although the storytellings, is a very important component, and when you do the deception planning, what must opponent do in order for that outcome to happen, that has to be planned as a part of the storyboarding. Must the opponent believe in order to make the decision and take the actions? How can we feed the opponent the information to make him believe the story? Very important thing we have learned, yesterday, a couple of stories. What is plausible truth, and what is the conditions when a particular adversary will act the way you want them to act? If the story is not plausible, then adversary will understand that it is possibly a ploy, a bait, or a trap, and then opponent will sit tight, and they will continue to operate without much of challenges posed by these deceptive networks. So the 4 component, the ODA loop, observe, orient, decode, decide, and act. These 4 components for adversary, we need to breach them, we need to deceive them in all the conditions. We want them to observe what we want them to observe. We want them to orient what we want them to orient. We want the adversary to decide what we want the adversary to decide. And finally, we want adversary to act the way we want the adversary to act. If these 4 steps are in favor of are the planned storyboard steps, then the chances of revealing much more important information about the adversary will be a natural process. So deception is a process executed in a manner especially intended to undermine or disrupt the adversary's OODA loop. Because if one of these loops are actually disrupted, then adversary becomes confused, and still, if the story is plausible, then the adversary will continue to provide you the information what you are looking for. Gentlemen, if some of you are not speaking, please put yourself on mute. That will be good. Then we talk about, it is all about behavioral science, it is all about economics, it is all about anthropology, sociology. It's, deception is a purely brain game where the role of technology is just an enabler. And many times, even the technology role is actually. But the designing, storyboarding, and behaving, creating the behavior pattern of the way you want it to be, where you create the perceptual bias in the mind of the attackers that they are in the right place and they are winning their battle. These type of things can be achieved through all other, interdependent subjects, not just related to IT or technology. And at the end of it, we want to build cyber magicians, because deception is a game of magicians. The way the magician does, the way they shuffle the card and they show you every time what you want to see it, exactly the same way we need to do a deception expert journey is all about being a magicians. And then we talked about, how the magic techniques and experiment works. And we narrated some of the very critical component. And we have seen some story to recap. So we have got, 6, distinct, dissimulation techniques. One is masking, one is repackaging, one is dazzling, one is mimicking, one is inventing, and the last one was decoying. Decoying is sometime, it is almost like a pocket litter or putting a trap for the adversary. We have also talked about deception and media manipulations. When you create a very nice persona, you also create, messaging on the internet or on the dark web or on the deep web, just to bring the truth that everything is perfect, nothing is imperfect. And then we spend some time on Mitre Engage. Deception is a process, not a fire and forget technology stack. And then we talked about 3 important engage for defenders. What are the benefit we can get, the organization can get. And then we came to the very important component, what is important for the decision makers. And then we discussed about cyber denial, cyber deceptions, and last one, the adversary engagements, using the planning analysis piece of it. We had questions that denial, why just denial, why not cyber deceptions? I think, the denial alone is not going to work. Had it worked, possibly most of the breach that we are seeing every day would not have happened. Cyber, as I earlier quoted, it is a war game, and we need to have a proper defense technique, the way the Indian Army or Indian Navy or Indian Air Force work. We need to use those similar technologies, similar techniques, similar tradecraft, similar practices to prevent against massive APTs or cyber attacks. Goals of adversary engagements are very simple. First, to expose the adversaries on the network, to elicit intelligence, to learn more about the adversary and their tactics, techniques, and procedures. One thing is missing here. We definitely need to know the motives of the adversary. That is the highest level of goal that you can talk about as part of your adversary engagement plan. And naturally, to affect the adversary by impacting their ability to operate. Normally, what happens when you get it, when you keep track of adversary, first thing that we need to do, we have to curtail the damage. Second thing is that we have to make them, feel comfortable. Third, that is very important, that we need to allow them to leave and create a perceptual bias so that they continue to perform the way you want them to perform. Then we talked about adversary engagement steps, denials and deceptions. Denials are being used by the organization almost every now and then. I think it's a time to embed deception, as one of the opportunity area. But when you use denial and deception together, adversary engagement becomes a very effective way of journey. Then we talked about Mitre Engage metrics, and we talked about first two. We didn't talk about the bottom one. So we'll start today. Any questions or anything that you all have read yesterday? Any thought in your mind before I jump to the next? Any thought, any idea or any questions that you have? Any one of you, please. Please unmute yourself if you are speaking.
Good morning. Good morning, sir. Yeah. So yesterday I was little occupied. I could not read that, but nevertheless, what I am looking at is earlier we have been in the journey of cyber physical, but with your inputs kind of, we are evolving to cyber physical to psychological and cognitive also. And psychological is not limited to only psychology, but as you rightly mentioned, it is also anthropology, behavior, history, sociology. So my God, it is absolutely connecting to the real world, every situations and every, softer situation. We are looking into the software issues through this technology which you are now educating us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Satyaji. Thank you.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, sir, thank you for this session. It was really wonderful yesterday. I have gone through some of the material. One question I have, you mentioned yesterday, there is in deception, the focus should be on techniques, not the deception technologies. So, if I understand, like, do the techniques like technology is evolved basis of the techniques, right? I mean, I have gone through the engage framework, so high level I understood, but it doesn't mention the techniques which should be deployed. So can you throw some light on this topic?
Yeah, so you see, the while technology, when the technology joins a corporate world, many times we feel that is the end of it. We have the technology, the game is over. The technology and the people who will manage the technology will take care of it. It is not like antivirus, where the antivirus update happens and you are all happy. If any antivirus comes of the similar access, it will get detected and then the way the EDR works, the way the firewall works, the way the IPS works. Here, the game is very different, because when you use the deception technology, it is not that one time you pushed it in place and then you update some rules and everything will be done. You see, one shoe fit all doesn't happen at any point of time. Even if you do the measurement of your left leg and right leg, you require 2 sets of shoes to be more comfortable. Earlier days, when you used to go for making the shoe to the shoe makers, they used to make two shoes and they used to have 2 different sizes. So when you are working with an adversary's mind, particularly when they are not seen on your systems, you are not dealing with the person's face to face. It's very important to change the way of thinking and way of working on a continuous basis. It needs to evolve. It uses a very distinct, behavioral science pattern, really comprehend the attackers, their moves, every moves. When you create a complete lures or breadcrumbs in the entire adversary engagement framework, every new behavior should be dealt with a new techniques. So if you have a frozen technology like Ativo or smoke screen, possibly you will be able to achieve the objective, but you may not be able to create the perceptual truth in the mind or perceptual bias in the mind of adversary. Because adversary, you don't know what is written codes inside the adversaries, APTs or malwares. You are just guessing. So possibly they are also trying to see it, whether the environment is like, sandbox, whether the environment is like a deceptive technology. Then they will remain silent and incipient without divulging any information to the outside world. To avoid that situations, the technology should be used, but outer lining of the technology for changing in the behavior pattern based on your requirement need to be through the human storyboarding or storytellings, and which becomes a perceptual bias for the adversary. Then they will start disclosing. Unlike, a typical firewall rules, where you go and change the firewall rules, you put a specific port and IP, and you are forgotten about it, everything is working perfectly. So deception technology is a game plan. It is a completely cognitive techniques and the warfare, to achieve the maximum goal. And that is where I was repeating time and again that it is not just technology, it is beyond technology. It is a evolving techniques with every steps the attacker takes. Attacker sometimes does, when you know that attacker is already using one of your system and you create the a synthetic network around that to contain the damage and also get the more information on adversary, every piece of information will change your game plans. Outcome is fixed. Outcome, you want to know the TTPs, want to know the motives of the attackers. But tactical game plans will keep changing, and that some leader need to take a question mark. If you do the comparison of the Kargil war, when everything was going on and we were losing every day, some of our boys were being lost. The game plans kept changing. End goal was very simple. We have to eliminate all of them, those who are in Kargil and Tiger Hills. But game changes with every step. So you have the lot of armament with you, but which armament will be fit, which side we should attack? It is a complete warfare. It is not that, you put a conditions firewall and firewall will work based on the rules. It doesn't work. So possibly we should see deception techniques as a military tactical games and strategic games, which is to eliminate the enemy and know more about the enemy so that future things doesn't happen in your organization. And that is how these two, most of this technology differentiate. I have seen organizations, those who are using deception technology, we used deception technology in the past. The game was very defective and the value for money was not there. But the moment we started putting the rubric of game plans along with the technology, the result was fabulous. I remember APT 14 and APT 27. 27 is being used regularly. We discovered these two and we, without putting any extraordinary efforts doing the reverse engineering, we got them, elicits all the information, whatever was they were carrying with them. It was very handy. So that's my explanation around that, and I love to hear your views and others' views. How do you feel about it?
Balaji, very good morning. Very good morning. Since yesterday I'm listening all your classes, and yesterday night also you given the YouTube set, so that also we have read. One thing is by the time it's coming in my mind, the deception technology is the very good, and I think I understand that it may cost use. Because for any organization to go with this deception policy, to implement this, they have to pay huge cost. So how the organization of the middle level, they can use this technology? Is there any agencies there who will provide them that from they can hire this, or they have to make from themselves? Then except just like I'm working in the banking organization, there is the main objective to do the business. They do not want to more and more expenditure on IT. Yes, they understand the IT is the important thing. So that's why they're using some technologies to survival. But deception, as I understand, and the example and the story, whatever you told us, that involves where is the cost was not matter, because of the Pokhran test, that was the government sponsored. They have nothing to worried about the money. For the Kargil, they have nothing to money about the money. For Russian attacks and other all things, they have nothing to about the money. But we are working in that organization. They have always calculate with the cost, with the practicability in our organization. So I want you some light on that area also.
Always, I have always been part of the same place where you are today, Prabhas. So technology, deploying technology and getting the best out of it is one component, and defining the return on investment is a very, very strategic and very important decision for any corporate organization. So when it comes to decision making, what is the value for money? Deception technology is all about the game plans. It does not require any intervention from the technology side. You can use your existing technology as a small technology bits, maybe one switch and some 10 desktops and couple of servers. I don't think it is a huge cost in comparison the cost of embarrassment which is caused by the attacks. The recent one, the ICI has joined. I don't know, none of them are from ICICI here, so we can talk. ICICI Bank brutally breached, and the amount of embarrassment they are going through and the amount of money they might need to prevent, it will be huge. And the amount of embarrassment they will have it will be, it will be incalculable actually, because calculation, you can't do it in terms of money, because reputation risk is the biggest one that you had. You may not be aware about it, but some of the messaging that I am getting from ICICI friend, there is a significant amount of people are coming out of the internet banking from the bank. So it will be a situation like run on the bank. You never know. It's all about reputation in the banking. If the reputation is not there, possibly people will get out of the bank. So we have to make a comparison between two. But deception technology, so far I understand, it does not require a technology. It requires a mind, a military mind, who understands the game plans, and then use the existing technology to achieve the goals. Because when you create an environment, you don't create a replicated environment of bank. You create a small environment within the same network. 4, 5, 6 systems will be there in the switch, and that. So cost in case of deception is much lower. Only thing is that you need to have a team, those who understand these game plans, those who can do brilliant storyboarding, who can write the story that how I'll create a trap from first movement to the last movement. And I think human cost is the least important cost, that you have. And you also provide an opportunity to the human being who can flourish in this space. I have seen many many components, which are available in public domain, maybe open source, tools. We can curate the open source tools and you use open source tool. We can use old systems, doesn't matter, because deception technology or techniques are very simple steps, which can be done without much of technology around. So what is required is that, how to acquire those knowledge base. And I'll tell you, we have got a very distinct 20 days intensive training. Unfortunately, we don't have the labs at this point of time. Might be, we'll like to have a lab down the line. But this 20 days training will teach more than 200 ways how you can create a trap and using the existing tools and technology. I wish I have a lab, the lab is a cost, but sometime I'll definitely have it. But I believe that, the game is no longer a simple child is coming and attacking you. The game is that, the motivated groups are coming to you, heavily funded by the state actors. They're coming to you and they're attacking you. And so very difficult to, get control of them unless you are fully prepared the way the war is carried out. By just putting some technology, it's not going to work. So we have to change our gear. If I always say one word, that 2000 companies in Fortune 2000 companies, 1606 country companies has reported breach this year in last 6 months, 8 months time. Something is definitely amiss. It is not simple thing that none of them are not having enough of, the security tools with them. Almost everybody has in Fortune 2000 company expenditure is nothing less than $30 million, right from the scratch, and then operational cost will be somewhere around $5 to $7 million at minimum. Despite all the tools and technology, if we are losing the battle, then I think it is a time to do the soul searching. So absolutely no disregard to your statement. I know that, every money counts, but I think the understanding the game plans and setting up the game plans is the need of the hour before we lose it further. Thank you.
Right.
Yes, Sir, what
Permit-
is the government of India's strategy to counter the large group of people and the state actors which are targeting Indian corporations and institutions? So, is there any comprehensive strategy? Uh, at present, I don't see it, but in future or in near future, is there any plan from government side to protect the large organizations, financial institutions, uh, by using cyber deception and other?
See, there are two parts of the games. One is offensive and one is defensive. You know, once you are in Jammu and Kashmir, okay, the 5 boys comes for an offensives. How many security forces you have? For every 5, you know, you have 1 lakh people to protect. We have got border security force, then we have got CRPF, we have got a state police force, then you have got Rashtriya Rifle, then you have got Indian Army. Just name them. You have lakhs of people placed in, still the event happens. Now, when it comes to offensive, you require few hands. And I'm sure that government has it. We don't announce much on that, and the government is, and nobody should announce. There is no dearth of capability within the establishment. But when it comes to the defensive side of it, you know, you have got more than 4 billion MSMEs, almost 40 lakh MSMEs, more than 1 lakh corporates registered with MCA. More than some 10-15 millions individuals, those who are doing broking, trading, and all their businesses. You need every systems, and everything is online. There's nothing offline. You need to have millions of people, trained people to protect against intensive bot-based attacks. Every day there are millions of scans happens across the globes. And the bugs are found and bugs are attacked. And it is done through the robotic means. It is not through the human means. So there is a, despite all the great things we might have on the offensive side of it, defensive side requires significant amount of engineering capabilities. And it is not the ISO 27001 and CISA and CISP. Everybody thinks these 3 you are done. Nirvan prapt kar liya maine. It's a very, very different game, and it requires significant amount of engineering capabilities. And in the change geopolitical situation, the biggest challenge that I see is that we are using AK-47 created by Americans to fight against Americans. I'm sorry, it will never work. In Iraq war in 90s, the Scud missile could not be fired on American entity at any point of time. They were falling on their own head. So the Scud missile, which was created in the 80s, early part of 80s and last part of 70s, was having backdoor as early as in 79, 80, 84 time frame. We are talking about today's computer without backdoors. It will never happen. It's always there. And it's a good time to really think through how to build our own indigenous systems, trustworthy systems, or how to use adversarial techniques to shut down some of these NATO moves. Otherwise, it's going to be a battle lost on the day one. Time, gear, and need to be changed.
Sir, one question, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. Actually, sir, in present scenario, what we used to do is that we used to block all the CNC IPs and all the malicious IPs that are coming into our network. So, I mean, if we block these CNC IPs, so by using deceptive techniques, are we allowing them to use all the deceptive data, or I mean, we should block all those IPs and not let them allow to access our network?
You see, it's a how prepared you are. If you are prepared to handle, then knowing more about the enemy is more important than just blocking them. What happens, and I always challenge this, I don't know anyone is there from certain today. Yesterday there were 3-4 people. I always believe in a theory that if I am an attacker I'll never use the same IP address again in my whole life. Whole life, not one day. I'll never use it. It's a use and throw IP addresses. So if you are using IOCs, the shelf life of an IOC is second, not even minute, not in hours. So if you block them, what benefit you are going to get out of it? Rather, if you block them, I'll tell you, I know the organizations where they have blocked 4-5 million in the firewall IP address. Now firewall is slow down, then the natural transaction is taking more time than required. So instead of that, can we have some gateway threat intelligence systems which just give you an insight of the new, same packets coming again and again, and they are bad. Do the sinkholing and, get more information out of that. I don't know whether it should be created at the national level or or corporate level. I have no idea, but I think there's time to know more about the enemy, and we should have the appetite to really look into that. Wherever I have been given an opportunity, I did that. Thanks to, two large organizations I worked with, American organization, I found that, doing sinkholing and knowing more about this IP address has always been the game. And I don't see this happening on a regular basis in India. So we need to change the gear. If you look, the story of Bank of America and Qualcomm, I have not seen any SEC 10 Q10 reporting that breaches happened in those organizations. And they were using this adversary techniques, engagement techniques for months together. I think from 2008 onward, they were using it. So I joined later. They were already using it by the time I was there. So game need to change.
And so once they are, as you were saying, they used to change their CNC IPs and all the IOCs within seconds. So is it possible to reverse analyze them? Once they change all the details, and
you need to create a trap. The challenge is that, an internet is not your hand. You don't have isolated internet. Chase them back, you can do it up to one layer very easily. Many times what they do it, if you look into a typical bot communication, it goes into geometrical, progressions. And the geometrical progression, the CNC chief is 1, and then 2, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 24. So there are nodes. Last nodes reach to you. So if you want to compromise that node, because that node is a weak node, somebody has compromised it. That's why that node is being used as a bouncer, as a bouncing platform. Now, if you do the same thing, you'll know more about the enemy. How much it is allowed or not allowed, I don't know. But this used to be one of the game plan in one of the organizations I worked with. We used to go to 4 hops, not 1 hop, but 4 hops. And many times I've found the actual CNC in 4 hops actually. But state actors, they use minimum 16 hops. It's impossible to go back to them. But why do you want to know so many hops? You need to know how the systems are being compromised. So you go and check some 3-4 hops and you have good information around that. And then you can keep attracting those, components by using the deceptive techniques and put them on the much more, bigger challenges. Instead of blocking it, I think blocking is not a great strategy. I don't know. I have to discuss someday with Satin and, NCIPC and National Cyber Security Secretariat under the PMO. I definitely need to have a threadbare discussion around that. Because I see this is a lost opportunity to know more about them.
Balaji.
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning. Balaji, thank you very much for uplifting us from our physical-based knowledge which we are carrying to cognitive way of thinking and giving a beautiful stories and background and supportive information. It's amazing. पहले तो आप किताब लिखो, ठीक है? Now, second thing is that there is a statement which keep getting propagated nowadays, like let the machine fight with the machine. And So being in this context, I want to know one thing, whether there is any existing product are there is going to be any product which are going to work where we should be talking about working in such a fashion where all the deception and all is valid and the tool is going to take care. Second thing is that how we are going to remain valid, let the AI and the machine fight with the machine. So please need your help on this.
Ram, you have come with, data science background, so I know where you are coming from. Whoever has quoted this statement is very valid statement, because if the machine is fighting against the human being, the man and the woman, machine will continue to defeat the man and woman because of one very simple thing: persistence. They'll continue to fight without any sleep, without any break, without any bio break, without any break for the your rhythm, nothing. They'll continue to fight and they'll defeat you. So in a cyber world, we see the machine is fighting with a human being. We need to equate the battle. Machine versus machine will be the better thing. I won't say the best thing, but it will be a better thing than what we are seeing today. As a matter of fact, most of the organization has, give me just 1 second. Yeah. So most of the organization is using security orchestrations tool, SOAR tools they are using, and they are trying to equate the response. I think the good strategy for SOAR is that first time a new technique has been found, new TTP has been found, new technique or new TTP has been found. The first time it can be through human intervention. Next time the same thing come, it should be done by the machine. So that will reduce some of the pain area. Coming to the point that, the AI will play a significantly important role in fighting the battle, which equating the battle between the machine and the machines. I think we are 5 to 7 years below that actually. It will take another 5 years to reach there. I think the basic game plan is that how to fix your house with existing tools in a proper way. Setting the baseline correctly, and then going up curve towards machine learning and AI piece of it. It's a journey, that will evolve. But future battle has to be machine. You think about, I'll give you one example. In my website, we are a very small entity. CyberVidyapeeth Foundation is if I call it entity, it is an entity. Otherwise, it's a non-entity actually, a large world. What we did, we put the, very simple packet capture at the egress, ingress port. And the amount of IP which are coming from outside the country in a month is around 16 million, okay? 1.6 crore possible scan I am seeing in my system in a month. And I see repeat IPs. So if the IP has come to me and has not done any transaction with me, because I use on my front page of the web page, I use something called as breadcrumb. Okay. And I have got Mitre there, which actually tells me whether the person has gone through any part of my website. They clearly see, they come, open the sessions, remain there for some time, then goes off. If a company like me, small non-entity organization, NGO, gets 1.6 million scan a month, think about it. It cannot be a human-based scan. It has to be machine-based scan. At the ISP level, Sunny, you are there, at the ISP level, we have to see and how to get this scan blocked. Because we are finding this is a challenge. 1.6 and so many attacks comes, I can't tell you. I got attacked using Rudy, DDoS attack. A small company, you cannot afford to have full DDoS tools there. I found DDoS attack on 20th June last year. I found a DDoS attack on my things, and after that, I started doing something different. I can't tell you here, but maybe in person when I'll meet, I'll tell you. We have got significantly large amount of IP databases from different geographies, which we see it as a potential malicious IP addresses. And some of them are being used by the organizations like Cloudflare, Boeing, type of organization coming to us. And I get surprised why they are coming to me. Think about it, coming to any corporate organization is a normal thing. For us, it is absolutely abnormal. Total number of unique IP address that we have recorded and we have done the reverse selling for them, it is more than 4 crore in last 1 year time. I think it's a good time to see your firewall drop packets and create a threat intelligence out of that actually. And then we are talking about equating the battle where we can, if the similar IP address or similar techniques are coming, similar country paths are coming, then simply block it. There is no easy path, Ram. Data science has to be there today or tomorrow. Yeah. Machine learning, and completely unsupervised learning, I think we are a little far from there, but supervised learning has to be there at the network layer. Because most of the attacks are coming from outside, it is coming from inside both. So inside out and outside in traffic. One of the important things is the DNS traffic monitoring, which nobody does it. If any organization does it, please let me know. Dilip, any DNS analytics? Dilip, you are on mute.
Yeah, yes, sir. So,
DNS analytics.
Yes, sir. Yeah, correct. So
most organizations, they are not doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think most of the organization are not doing because the volume of the log is so huge that the SIM tool, whatever they have, right, it's not capable to take that much of logs and do the analytics. I think that's the bigger challenge.
That's a major reason. And trust me that that is the network layer, you can detect the attack.
Correct.
Application layer and system layer detection is it's the biggest challenge I can tell you, because everywhere the manipulation happens. But network, IEEE has done amazing job. Network manipulation is very difficult. So network speaks more volume of truth than than anywhere else actually. But unfortunately, despite knowing that DNS will provide you the amazing view, we are unable to trap that actually.
Yes.
And that is where Ram, the machine learning required to be there, because those traffic provides you amazing insights actually.
Balaji, thank you very much. Excellent.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. Okay, let's coming to the main session today. Okay. So we'll spend some time on this slide because this is the core of the entire, game plans. Okay. So yesterday we learned prepare, expose, affect, elicit, and understand. These are the 5, key components. And to achieve these 5, we require to plan, collect, detect, prevent, direct, disrupt, reassure, motivate, and finally analyze. We have not gone through the below one. Through the below one, and what is the importance of that? So cyber threat intelligence. Now, many times when we look into the cyber threat intelligence, we just come across the name of the company who provides the threat intelligence feed. Cyber threat intelligence is beyond those feed actually. Because when the people create the feed, they create based on their source. Every organization, they need to create their own, which is available sometime in open source, sometime in closed source. There are organizations like Group IB, Recorded Future, type of organization. And even nowadays, there are more companies in place. Kela is one of them. They provide the feed. All these feeds are, in my opinion, are information. So there is a very good, definition which has been given by a gentleman, Dr. Subramaniam from University of Maryland. I happened to write one paper with him when I was in Bank of America. In that paper, very clearly 4 steps has been told. So the first step is data. So in any actionable intelligence journey, the first important step is data. By putting some filters, it gets converted into the information, and it is blended with some other, informations, int sources like human, SIGINT, TechInt, comment, emint type of components. And then finally, we generate actionable intelligence. So there is a cycle. It is known as decay cycle. So decay cycle always start with the data and then goes to information. In my opinion, any thread feed which are coming from these commercial companies, they are information and they are definitely not actionable intelligence. When we talk about cyber threat intelligence, we need to think on this, that we need actionable intelligence. Otherwise, the journey for threat-based, response or threat defense based response will never be possible unless you have actionable intelligence. And yesterday I gave an example that, if there is a bomb blast news in Bombay, for me it is an ocean actually. It is not data even. It is unstructured data actually. Then we say that, it is in BKC, the bomb blast will happen in BKC. Then it is something, I call it information. But if I say in one particular building, the blast will happen in 5th floor, that is actionable intelligence. So cyber threat intelligence should not be confused with the word that feed which are coming from outside organization. Outside organization and inside, blending of these two information is required to get proper cyber threat intelligence feed. So when you are doing the planning, you definitely need to have threat intelligence feed. How do you get this threat intelligence feed? So yesterday we talked about one component. Let me go back to that component again. Yeah, amazing. One slot it came. So yesterday we talked about this cycle, because engage metric cycle, it starts from anywhere. Whether you have implemented the control, that will give you some, collect raw feeds, and then it will provide you, some based on analyze, you will identify something, and you will put next level of, deception techniques. So in cyber threat intelligence, suppose you have identified an opportunity, okay? One of the machines, one particular beacon has come, which has been identified as potential malicious beacon. Now, once you identify that opportunity, you go back to, many places, including Mitre attack, and say this beacon means what? Now, once you reach to the Mitre attack, framework and go to the entire life cycle of a kill chain, then you'll find this beacon is very common in this type of attacks. Now, you will sum it up out of 1100 T number, threat number, ID number, around 16 of them have got similar beacons. Now you have a good information available with you based on the data that you got it. Now you have to take care of this 16 type of, potential malicious opportunity. This malware which has been detected in your system that has thrown some beacon, this will be from first 16 group. Then you see that, whether this similar beacon has been seen in the past in the organizations, and that is where the threat hunting starts. Then you find that, yes, similar beacon has been seen in the past, and they have seen some more behaviors. Now you have those behaviors blended with, Mitre attack, and then you find that this behavior is from one particular APT group. Now you are having a absolute actionable intelligence that this particular group is there. Now you go back to the Mitre. So let me see, so Mitre, you might have forgotten. If you have not remember that, let me go to the Mitre and show you something interesting. So this is Mitre attack, okay? Now you have found that some phishing mail has come, okay? This can be one of the beacon. This is a phishing mail, okay? Or you have found that, the machine is trying to do serverless execution. So the moment you find T1648 serverless executions, you can go and look into detail of this. What is this serverless execution and what type of attack it brings? Then you will find that you have got application log to monitor this particular thing. Now you know that how to monitor and find more about it, how to create a defensive trap around that. So we'll go and monitor the application log. Then you will find that SMTP header XMail application is providing you the more insights. So in a typical threat hunting world, once you have found a beacon or one particular event which has led to feel that possibly your machine is compromised, then your next important thing that is to be done is to find the opportunities which are available through that particular beacon or that information. Once you are there, then you know that this particular actor group is there. Suppose it is APT28 is there. Okay, the similar techniques are being used. Now APT28, you have got different path, all 7 paths, which are the place you can disrupt it. Many people says that the disrupting an attack is very difficult, but if you dissect any one of the APTs, I did a large dissection of APT 41 and 28, and I have got some very interesting session on that, 4-hour session only on APT, one APT. So one of the, in APT, when I dissected, I found 153 opportunities were there for attacker, for defender to detect it. 153 opportunities were there. And the worst thing, the APT 128 has hit more than 60,000 organizations across the globe. Almost all the Fortune 500 companies have been hit by that actually, except bare minimum few 4-5. Everybody has observed, or they have been, some of them have been breached also. APT was 28 was targeted only for banking sector, and it really created a lot of mess for the organization. So if you have got 100, if you have dissected the attack techniques to 153, opportunities, if you take out one out of 153, the complete, APT 28 is broken into pieces. So your threat intelligence becomes a very important part of your deception journey, because unless you know what is that we need to make a deception, roadmap or storyboarding, you will not be able to go to the next one. So let's go to the slide, same slide again. So this is on cyber threat intelligence, that cyber threat intelligence is the most important part for planning, for story writing. If you don't have this, then you won't be able to plan properly, because then what you will plan for it. Then second important planning component is engagement environment. So when you go to the engagement environment, you have to say whether it has to be synthetic environment or whether it can be a integrated environment. So let me, I use this word a lot more often. So let me go through, So let's have a definition. Please read these definitions because while I'll share you the PPT. So when you create an environment, you have two options. One is a synthetic environment. On second one is your integrated environment. Dependent upon the risk appetite you carry. If your risk appetite is very high, you don't want to get hit, and you don't want to go for denial, then you can go for synthetic environment. Okay. So environment creation is that, whether you are going to use a hardware or you are going to use a virtual machines, whether you are going to deploy software, networking devices to make up the environment, or you are just going to plug one of the another devices, desktop devices in the environment. You want to isolate that environment or completely isolate the environment or partially isolate the environment, depending upon, the risk appetite you can define on the environment piece of it. And when constructing the environment, it is important to consider how the target adversary will move through the environment. The most important thing when you are creating environment, you want to know about the attacker. Now, attacker will use a path. Do you want to create that path? Then network becomes an important part of it. Now you have to see whether it is a single laptop or network of computers. If you want to create a plausible truth in the mind of the adversary, then you have to create a proper network the way it looks like in that organization. Otherwise, if you create one particular laptop, you have put it there, which is an old laptop, which is a particular decoy tool, attacker will come to know it very easily, because then the truth will not be plausible. And then, the attacker will sit there for years together. It will never, or might be shut down forever. Actually, they will simply self-kill it and close it. So when you are creating the environment, you can create two types of environment: isolated environment or integrated environment. Isolated environment is that, suppose if you have one particular machine which has been compromised, okay, which is sending the beacons. Now in that room, you have got 5 more machines connected to a switch. Now, other 4 machines you don't want to disrupt, so you isolate those machines and you put the similar type of environment machines in that with the same IP address, same MAC ID, you put it there. You spoof it and you create environment. Then isolate that particular network area in such a way that communication to the machines are limited to the isolated environment only by the adversary, and it should not be other part of the organization. Another one is integrated environment. If you have a good, the network monitoring system, which include deep packet inspection and flow analytics, then you can go for integrated environment. Integrated environment, better thing is that truth will be much more prevalent, because it is not that you are creating something, it is a part of that group. But what you do, you curtail the damage by planning at the network layer, certain things, certain machines should be monitored on real-time basis. Any beacon happens, it should be, if it goes to the next layer, it should be shut down. We should have those kill switches built. And all these things are human efforts. The brain and the human effort does not require any tool, because tools are already there in your organization. In case of integrated environment, no expenditure. Only thing is that your monitoring system has to be spick and span, and it has to be done on a real-time basis, 24/7, because beacon, when it will come, you never know. I know one particular type of malware, they were sending beacons only on a definitive date of a month. Like on 27th of February, they will send a month. And again, next month, 27th February. Same beacon will come on 27th February. So if you have, the environment, because when they send the beacon, they don't open up much. Opening up will happen only when they feel comfortable. So long they are just sending some beacons and they are trying to gauge the environment, they will not, open it up. And that is where the role of integrated and isolated component becomes very important. Okay. Is it clear? Cyber threat intelligence, I think I took long time on this. Any question here, gentlemen? Any one of you?
This is the best explanation of cyber threat intelligence I've ever heard. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Sudeep. Dilip, you want to contribute? But if you are an expert, you should contribute here.
Sir, you have conveyed all the messages, so nothing additional to contribute here.
Thank you.
Balaji, I want to share something, based on, the discussions yesterday.
Yes, sure.
What I went through is, I went through some of the examples of some of the red teaming exercises that were done in my organization. Right? So I was trying to correlate in terms of, okay, where they're spending more energies. Is it just in the defense part, or are they trying to understand the adversary better? Or it is only, the tools that have been deployed and, nobody's just looking at it. No, the tools were deployed, but later, it takes more coordinated effort between the teams within SOC and CSOC. How are they trying to collaborate and then trying to identify the adversaries? I think, these are some, good thoughts that just, that just came while I was going through these and then trying to understand, some of the exercises that they were done, as well as, some of the attacks that they were trying to analyze after effect, right? Something would have happened and then they started analyzing, did they go in the right path or not? I think this is one way to probably look at, though, everybody may not be able to share what exactly the incident has happened and how did they kind of understood, and later on, how are they going back and feeding the learnings in their planning exercise and how to engage the adversary. I think those will be some iterative processes that can be done. And it just goes back to the diagram that you showed in terms of there is no set process, as in, you just have to start with the, understanding the raw data and then trying to engage or trying to analyze. So it can be in any fashion. I think, that's a good analogy, and the diagram perfectly fits into the real world, even though you do not have a lot of resources.
Mitre always does amazing work. Only thing that we don't look into it very closely always. I love Mitre only for that reason, because they are very, very structured. Absolutely. I don't know whether you remember the Mitre's statement. Let me see if I can show you. So, thank you, Satish. I think it's good to hear that. It creates value. So engagement environment is all about setting up a space dedicated for the attacker to enter, creating a clear path. The word that you use is breadcrumbs. When you give a bait, you give a breadcrumbs and the mouse starts moving towards the breadcrumb. So you have to create breadcrumbs in the engagement environment. And then the next one comes gating criteria. Gating criteria is a very interesting concept. Okay. If you look into what is the exit path that you have? So where the places, you are going to put a toll gates or a gating criteria. Once you have done that, then you have actually arrived at the right design. So when you do the storyboarding, for every component that you do in deception techniques, you definitely need to design a storyboard, because unless you know what the story you are going to follow and what path they will, the trap will be done, which are the places we have to kill the attacker, or which are the places we allow them to go. Those are part of a very complex and intense story writing. Once you fully onboard that story, then you stick to the story and keep monitoring the way the story has been designed. Because if the story has been designed to create a perceptual bias in the mind of adversary and then start moving in the direction where you want the adversary to go, if it is not happening, then you have to go back to the drawing board and redesign your storytellings. Because if nothing is happening on that space, then your story is not a plausible story, and possibly this story is going to bound to fail actually. So one of the important component as a part of the journey is getting criteria. Getting criteria is a define the set of events that would lead to unnegotiable pause or concluding to the operation. So you definitely decide that, what is the time we have to really get out of the system. And this is the time when I'll not go further, or I'll just kill that and move away. So grading criteria is one of the very important component in decision making. The fourth component is operational objective. Operational objective is that, what do you want to achieve out of? You want the, attacker to go a particular path, disclose something more to you. You have a plan of, knowing more about the attacker. So the operational objective has to be very clear. Many times you want to know whether it is lateral movements are happening or not, and you close that story there, or you want to go a little further to that. If it is an integrated environment and you want to see whether the beacons are coming on a continuous frequency or not, you want to know just frequency. So your objective is just knowing the frequency. So once you observe the frequency, your job is done, and then you go further, threat hunting based on those frequency criteria. So operational objective is a very important part of storyboarding, which is planning. If you have done it correctly, then your goals should be achieved based on monitoring of the goals should be based on the operational objective. Fifth one is the persona creation. Okay, this is a very, very interesting topic actually. This persona creation is something which I can talk for 2-3 days closely and it will not end. Okay, because this is the most intense part of the deception planning. So suppose if you are having 5 machines which are actually being used for deception, techniques or deception process or adversary engagement purposes, then these 5 machines will have some person beside that. So you will have to create a persona. The person will do work every day. They will have some time to work every day. It should not look like, like a typical honeypot. Honeypot is, is a machine which lies on the network. Somebody comes in or somebody does not come in, nobody cares about it. If somebody comes there and disclose something, it is good. If there is no other work. But deception technique is not that. Deception technique is far beyond the honeypots. That is the reason, there is a full game plan. Now the people are using the word honeynet. Honeynet is, another little bit of concept, but my belief about the deception process or adversary engagement process is far beyond the both, honeynet and honeypots. Purpose of, persona creation is that it should be a plausible truth for adversary to believe that these machines are genuine machines. They are not trapdoors. They are not lures. They are not, meant for trapping the, the malware. That truth will come only when the right persona is created. So persona will not only created here in your organization, in your machines, but also outside. So the person who is sitting there is also sitting on the LinkedIn. It is also sitting on the WhatsApp. What is also set up in, is a full persona. Trust me, this is a very important component of entire deception or adversary engagement planning. Because if the person is there, their name is there, but that name does not exist in the organization. Because the organization details are already available in LinkedIn. Attacker never comes to you directly attack you. They'll go and search your organization in LinkedIn. They'll find who is the right person. Okay, this is the administrator. I have to go to this machine. Now the machine, you are trying to take it to the adversary to that machine, belongs to the same machine, then there is a plausible story. Yeah, this person is this is the administrator, he's the VMware administrator, and this machine is used for VMware administration, and he's the same person. If this persona creation is a very important component. If you do it rightly, then plausible truth creation and cognitive bias creation becomes much easier. Next one is storyboarding. You see, planning is the complete plan. When you document it, it becomes a storyboarding. And then the last one is the threat model. Threat model, is a very vast subject in itself. But if you, define it in one line, then it is something that, so threat model basically provide you a deep insight that when a particular vulnerability is come, how it is going to impact my organizations. The entire story, the life cycle of the threat management will become a small model for you. And that model will be utilized for knowing your weaknesses and strength. If the strength and weaknesses are known to you, then you particular type, if you know this is a weakness and I am going to be hit by this process, then you will take another steps. So, and then you keep validating. When you plan it, you see whether threat model in your threat model, it fits in, the design fits in or not. If it is not fitting in, then you have to change the design and you have to rewrite the storyboarding. So that is where it is a plan. Okay, the plan is a very important component because it's not a set it and forget it type of tool. You have to intricately plan it. Once you do that, then what you do is collect. Now, what you collect, you do the API monitoring, you do the network monitoring, you do the software manipulation monitoring, and you do system activity monitoring. And when you do manipulations, basically you use, fidelity in your management tools. Few tools, they call it FIM, files management, integrity management tools, or some people say fidelity management tools. So you have to look for, they are the place from where you have to collect the information. It is in a synthetic environment and you have to collect the information. How you do? It's not going to be easy job. Do you want to use, one-way firewall, or many times it is not one-way firewall, but you can use the wires, the communication wire, and make it only transaction one way to do it. Or you want to take the information to the SIEM tool, through some other channel. You will have to plan it out very properly for that. The second one is that your network monitoring. Network is a very important, component of monitoring, because in case of a completely game plan for adversary engagement, any beacon which is coming from the compromised machine to other machine, every beacon need to be analyzed and to be comprehended how it is different from the last one. So that, you are able to rate cognitive actions on a real-time basis. And then, the last one is system activity monitoring. So suppose some, if you remember the kill chain step of Mitre attack framework, whether, after initial compromise, what is the next step they will do it? What is the next step they will do it after that? What will be the next step after that? So like that, your entire kill chain will be utilized. So system activity monitoring will provide you that at what layer, and that will also provide you some additional elicited information out of that system. So these are the 4 things to collect. Once you have collected, you have to detect it. There is something known as introduced vulnerabilities. Purposely in one of the machine you have introduced vulnerabilities. You know that this particular, beacon is in the family of APT 28, and you know that meme cards is going to be used. So you create a meme cards related vulnerabilities so that, they come and expose more to you. And you don't do it randomly. Don't do it in a planned manner. Do it randomly. In out of 4 machines, 1 machine, so you have got meme cards related things are open. The next one is the lures, which is also used for detection. So if lures are there, the beacon will come to that lure. And the third one is the malware detonation. Malware detonation is like that, you can create a sandbox and you can detonate the malwares to know more about it. And the last one is the network analysis. So network analysis will form part of your flow analytics and deep packet analytics. The flow analytics, which happen at the layer 2 level, and deep packet analytics happen at layers up to layer 7, layer 2 to layer 7 level. Now you have a choice here. how to prevent some of the infections. So every machines will have some baselines, the configuration management baseline, and configuration is not only at operating system level, but all levels, which includes your firewall level. It includes your operating system layer. It improves at your browser layer. It improves at the application layer, which are residing in those systems. So,
are you showing any slides? We can't see any slides.
Sorry, my slide has. So when you are going for prevent, you have to have a baselines in place, okay? And you know that particular APT 28, which are the places of violations. This is where you can manipulate it and create a baselines, which will help you preventing the attacks or bad effect of the attacks. Many times, you don't allow the bad effect, particularly integrated environment. If the effect, is not prevented properly, it can affect your organization. So you have to do the manipulation, like hardware manipulations. Hardware manipulation is that, if the some of the malwares does the damage at the hardware layer, can you do the hardware manipulations to create an environment or prevent an attack from there? Third one is isolation, that that it is an integrated environment. It is not synthetic environment. So possibly this is the time where operational objectives are met and gating criteria clearly suggest time to isolate the system. So now you have isolated the system. Next one is the network manipulations. Network manipulation is that, you want to create a breadcrumbs and you want this particular beacon to go to a particular systems. You can manipulate the network. So automatically the traffic will be diverted to the machine where you want, adversary to be there. And the last one is security control. So, you can have many security controls on your desktops and the network layer. Please see that, some of them can be used for meeting the gating criteria by preventing the attacks. Next one is the direct, attack vector migrations. Now, that the attacker has understood the story. They are very comfortable with it. Now they have started, doing the manipulations. And that is where the direct comes. Attack vector migrations, email manipulations, introduced vulnerabilities, lures, malware detonations, network manipulation, peripheral management, security controls, and software manipulation. These are the way, you direct the adversary to its separate directions. You do some email manipulation. You manage the, and when you do the direct, technically you are in a command. Cognitive bias has already been created in adversary. Now you are in commands, you are able to direct the adversary without letting the adversary know that you are directing them, and you are manipulating and trying to get more and more information. Disrupt is, again, it's a part of effect. So you are trying to, the OODA loop we talked about, you're trying to disrupt, any one of the OODA loop. You can create an isolation. Again, you have an opportunity to lures here, network manipulation and software manipulation. Here, you can even plan a game that mimic cards has been utilized, sandbox has been created, and whatever is happening in a very, very isolated space where the attacker is not aware about it, but they provide you significant amount of informations available in memory forensics. And last one is elicit. That is where the adversary is fully trapped in your organizations, doesn't know anything else. They have to meet their final objective. And when they meet the final objective, application diversity, artifact diversity, burn-in, manipulations, information manipulations, network diversity, peripheral management, pocket leaders, all these things to create a scene for the attacker that everything is as per my choice. Pocket leader, oh, this is the password I was looking for so long. Oh, this is the Active Directory where I have got full control now. He will, go berserk and start doing the next step, which is your data exfiltration. Now, when the data exfiltration happens, I don't know how many of you will be able to do it, but this is the time to induce some packets back to the attacker's organizations, and you can send some of the real malware efforts from your side to that side. I don't know whether you are allowed or you are capable of doing it, but this is the place where you can do it. And finally, you can motivate to provide you more objective information about the attackers. And once everything is done, you have to understand, analyze now what exactly you get, what threat intelligence you generated out of that, and then redesign your threat models based on the new reality that you have received. So Mitre Engage matrix is a very step oriented, very planned oriented, every step is done the way the attacker comes to you. As a defender, you have to use the same plausible steps so that you can trap and finally motivate them to give you everything, and finally you analyze them and build your the threat hunting capability far superior than any other organization. Any question here? Any one of you?
What if the attacker is also listening to your class and he's also preparing better and better?
They know
this is what-
Mitre Engage framework, they know it better. But I'll not define the lures and breadcrumbs or the leaders based on their requirements. I'll define as per my requirement. So that I'm not going to divulge it to anybody else. So when you go to the Mitre Engage, they don't.
Balaji, I
any
just
of these
have
things.
one.
Yes.
And what is artifact diversity? Just before you take some other one, what is artifact diversity?
So
What is artifact diversity?
Yeah. So artifact diversity, when you are having a lot of things that you can have, variety of network and system artifact that you might be having. So one of the artifacts, suppose if I'm going to put a password file, okay, in one of the laptops, this is one of the artifacts, okay. I'm creating some rules in network which are manipulative in nature. So it is another network-based lures or traps. This is another artifacts that I have. So never leave one or two mistakes, but you leave multi-layer mistakes, which can be gauged by the attackers and can be used for manipulation. And that is where you get more information about that. So artifact diversity is present the adversary with variety of network and system artifacts.
Balaji, you also spoke about, if at the time of, attacker trying to take away or steal information or data from you, how, we can sneak in or, put the malware back into their environment. Is that even legally allowed? I mean, or are there any legal implications to do such activities?
It's very difficult to prove that, you have planted. You have kept in the folder, they took the folder along with the folder that has gone.
Okay.
You can always say that, they are not going to come back to you. I'm telling you, they're not going to come back to you. Going to room number 25409.
Yeah, they will never
China,
come back.
Going back to the room number 2540 China. Dilip, we have seen that in the last organization together. Is that right? Going back to 25409 room of China, you can't reach it there unless you have the payloads. But they also are smart. They do the sandboxings and other things outside. So sometimes but still you will have more number of hops known to you, in my opinion.
Okay. Just to trace back, where they're coming from, etc. Thank you.
And any other question from any one of you? If no, then let's take a small break for 10 minutes. 11:45 we'll be back. We'll take some tea break and bio breaks. Is that okay with all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
कई बार तो ये लोग, चलो देखते हैं। अरे
So now we are going into little deeper inside the adversary engagement operation. So a typical adversary engagement operations has got 4 large goals. The first goal is narratives, how to build the narratives. So who are the deception personas? We'll have to create the personas, we'll have to create the environment, And this cannot be created on the day when the deception techniques are being utilized. It has to be created as part of the organizational strategy. How do the personas interact with each other, with the environment? How do we organize and generate pattern of life? What happens, when a dumb device without the attacker will go and check the browsers, and it says the browser nobody has come. Then he will say what is the utilization time and other logs. Nothing is there. Means this is potentially a bad machine, possibly a deception machines, and will slip tight and will not do anything else. So build a plausible truth. It is good to build a narratives. And then for building that narrative, we'll have to do the way the human being works. We'll have to create a dummy or persona, but everything will remain same. So this is narrative building. So that attacker will say this narrative, they will understand the narrative, say, okay, this is perfect. This is perfect. Then we create the environment. So when we create the environment, what do the engagement environment looks like? Whether it will be integrated environment or it is a synthetic environment, totally outside the organization network. How do we spin up reliable, repeatable environment? Very important to spin up the reliable and repeatable environment, so that attackers should feel comfortable that yes, this is a part of the same organization. The way my machines are there where I am sitting, other machines are same. They are part of the same subgroups. Fourth is the sensing. How do you elicit information about the adversary? That is very important part of it. So how do we monitor and track the adversary as they move through the environment? And how do we get data of the engagement environment? This is a very important decision that need to be taken. I have got a full case study and how do we do the data of the environments. We have some practical things also, but that is a part of the larger training that we do as a part of Mitre engagement framework. Last one is that once you have actually got those data, now you have to analyze the data and know more about the enemy. Anytime when you analyze the data with more data that you have, that is, never believe that is the complete data. Unless your operational objective sets that this is the information I need and I have to close down, let's close it down. But if you want to know the adversary's motive, then you need to know about adversary 100%. To know adversary 100%, we need to do the threat intelligence analytics at every stages. So suppose, one stage you found, okay, that was one beacon. Then you try to find more beacons, related to that beacon. What are the, Mitre attack framework talks about it. Now you found that, there is more beacon has come, which has got reliability to APT 28 or APT 39 or APT 42. The moment you come to know about it, then you have got more information to do it. You can create more traps, more lures, more interesting story, plausible stories. And then you can create a trap where the attacker will divulge everything. But for that you require to carry out the analysis. So we process or store data collected from operation is a very important step, because if it is a synthetic environment, collection of data is very difficult there because it's an isolated environment. If you collect the data, information will be sent to the attackers. So it should look like an integrated environment, but even though it is a synthetic environment, a data collection strategy has to be finalized at a time. Then how do we turn data into standardized, useful intelligence, searchable across the operations? It is very important. Suppose, can we get, some hash values? Can we get some step values? Can we get the, files? Which are the files it is changing the parameters? Those informations will help you in the rest of the line to find that whether the same malware has footprints anywhere else in the organization. That will set right the strategy for the future containment of the malware infection. So one of the most important goal, all of you are able to see my screen, is that right?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
So I was talking about that environment operation. It's very important component in adversary engagement is the 4 steps: narrative, environment, sensing, and analysis. Because these are the steps which provides you reliability, that you are the same what I am looking for as an adversary. The environment provides you control on the adversary, and sensings provide you the insight about the adversary, the information about the adversary. Analysis provide you the actionable intelligence out of the entire information which are coming, which can be used in the organization for doing further threat hunting and finding if there is similar problem exists inside the organization. And many a time it is a good habit to share this information back to the CERT, Computer Emergency Response Team of India, through automated, through using the threat intelligence platform, or through manual means, so that the larger community of Indian organization can get benefited out of that. So an operational objective is the foundation upon which the other 4 elements must be built. Okay, so there are 5 elements is a part of adversary engagement. The first more important element is operational objective, because operational objective sets the gating or the toll gates from where we have to start working on it. So operational objective is one of the most important component, and without this, other 4 elements must be built, otherwise it will not work. The second one is the narrative. Give me just 1 second. So when you build the narrative, the goal of the narrative building is to create a plausible truth in the mind of attacker or adversary. So very, very important thing is that what type of network infrastructure does this victim occupy? Has that occupied a desktop, a server, or a laptop, or a network device? Second, and what type of document and communication do any involved persona generate and possesses? It's very important, because then only you will understand that what will be the impact of the organization. And then when are the personas active? How active are they? And what does the typical activity look like? Is narrative building is a very important component to change the cognitive bias or perceptual bias in favor of the defender. Otherwise, if there is any gap is there, then attacker will slip tight, will not do anything on that actually. Second one is the environment, which I have talked about it. Isolated environment and integrated environment. Isolated is a synthetic environment which is totally away from the normal environment, and you are trying to replicate the integrated environment into isolated environment to create the truth, near truth, or 100% truth. Then there has to be some relationship between pocket litter and environment. So pocket litter, as I told each one of you earlier, that it is something to create a faith that I am the same environment. Now, suppose if you have a laptop which is not part of the domain and the domain name is not there, the attacker will see this is an isolated machine. It cannot be, this is something wrong. There is something wrong. So pocket litters are created to create a perceptual bias in the mind of adversary that yes, this is the part of the same environment. And yes, this is the truth, but nothing but truth. The moment you create this bias, the adversary becomes comfortable and then start going towards the next stage. And that is where they start exposing themselves, and you have got more opportunity to. If there is any inconsistencies, it will definitely cause adversary to become suspicious, and it will threaten your operational success. And when done well, a consistent engagement narrative can be used to establish anchoring bias in adversary. So it's very important that pocket litters and environments should look and feel same. Many times what we do, we put a machine there and we forget about the machine for months together. Nobody is working on it. No logs are generated. Only basic system logs are there. No action logs are there. Attacker feels suspicious that there is something wrong here. But if there is a persona who works between 9 to 5 every day, then it looks like the same machines. We need to build those stories very narratives very, very meticulously. If the bias, is not in favor of the, defender, then all future will be, information will be biased. It will not be useful. But if the bias, perceptible bias has been created in the mind of the attacker is in favor of defender, then trust me, all future information that aligns with the anchor to be accepted more readily, while information that does not align with the anchor will be more easily ignored. So pocket leaders artifacts are placed on a system to reinforce the legitimacy of the systems or the user. And the lures are the system and artifacts intended to serve as decoys, breadcrumbs, or bait to elicit a specific response from the adversary. Suppose if I put a password file, there, or I set a password in the Chrome browser. And I have also left a small passwords somewhere in the systems in a clear text format, where it is always kept. What will happen? The adversary will get excited that this is what I was looking for. So I have got now some second layer of tickets to access the more network. So this will be a bait to elicit a specific response from the adversary. Element 3 is monitoring, which is a very critical component, and monitoring can be, at multiple layers. Particularly if you have created a deception environment, monitoring of packet capture, record logs, flow analytics are very, very important ingredients for packet, network monitoring. Unless you have that, your success rate for eliciting information will be very less. It is also important for engaging and eliciting more information about the attackers on a real-time basis. If the visibility is not very clear, the information is not available on a continuous, consistent basis, you will act late by the time it will be late for the organization. So monitoring is essential to ensure that operators are always engaging within the bounds of the rule of engagement. So rule of engagement is defined as a part of your operational goals. What is your operational goal? Based on the operational goal, rule of engagement will be defined. And monitoring every component of rule of engagement is very important part for monitoring the movement of adversary in your environment. You see, anything that you do in OPSEC as a part of your adversary engagement plan, it's very important to understand that every bit of information that you are doing need to be a top secret. Adversary engagement need to be protected and strategy should remain a secret. It should be known to one or none or just only handful of people, not to everybody else in the organization. I'll give you an example for that. Now, suppose if you are, a company like Qualcomm and you are going for a 6G, trade secret. Now, trade secret has to be kept very secretly. That is one. Second, that if I creating a decoy of trade secret of 6G documentations, I'll keep it securely and expose it to certain people. But if the people know that this is a decoy, they will not come there. So your insider threat management program will go for a toss. So it is important for you as a defender to take care of this operational security very, very, cautiously, and sharing this information about OPSECs and, the entire plan of adversary engagement should be limited to one or none. It should never be a shared secret. I'm just repeating it once again, okay? There are 5 parts of, adversary engagement. One is operational objective. An operational objective is the foundation upon which the other 4 elements must be built. And what are the other 4 elements? Other 4 elements are narrative, environment, sensing, and analysis. Narrative building is very important to create a perceptual bias in the mind of the attacker, adversary. Environment is the place which plays a very important role. How the adversary will be trapped inside the organization and inside a specific environment, whether it is a synthetic environment or isolated environment, or it is a integrated environment. Sensing is how to monitor and track the adversary as they move through the environment. Very important
Can't
one.
see your slide.
So I'm just repeating it, just for recording purpose. So sensing is another very important component, because if you have all the deceptions, adversary engagement process in place, but you don't know how to track the adversary's every second sensual moves, then it will be of no use. And the last one is analysis. Suppose one more beacon has come, one new thing has come, and then you go analysis for that and further fine tune it with cyber threat intelligence platform, or you can use the Mitre attack to know more about it. You can use many other threat feeds come from, as a blog from many of the organization, and then blend this information for generating actionable intelligence. We have also talked about relationship between pocket litter and environment. When constructing the environment, it is essential that pocket litter and environment are both telling the consistent narratives. Because if the environment and the pocket litters are not speaking together as one environment, the adversary will catch it, and then you will not be able to elicit any information out of that. Many times, inconsistency between the pocket litter environment and the existing environment where the attacker is sitting, if it is weirdly different, then it will make the adversary suspicious and threaten the operational success of the program. But when these two things become part of one game and the adversary creates a perceptible bias in the mind, a consistent engagement narrative can be used to establish anchoring bias in the adversary. And after that, adversary anchoring bias is a cognitive bias established when an individual relies heavily on initial information offered, the anchor to make subsequent decisions. Now, if the anchoring bias has really fit into the mindset of the adversary will open up more because he feels comfortable, he is a part of the same group, everything is perfectly all right. Then he will provide you, elicit more information to you, which can be blended with your cyber threat intelligence and Mitre attack framework to finalize an actionable intelligence around that and create more traps for more information eliciting out of that. One important thing I repeated, need to be protected. Need to be protected, and strategy should remain a secret. It should not be in public space. We should not talk about in the public space. It should be always closed doors discussions. Now, the next very important thing is that what are the 10 things we need to do for building the entire adversary engagement program? Well, that's the crux of your entire program. So one of the most important pillars is organization often fail to adequately plan how and where denial, deception, adversary engagement will utilize on their network. These are the lessons learned from the past. So it's very important. The organization must think critically about what their defensive goals are and how denial, deception, and adversary engagement can be used to drive progress toward these goals. So when you are doing the plannings, it is very important to understand that what is my end goal? What is my operational objectives? And based on that, we definitely need to plan how it will, the entire, process will fit in. To achieve those objectives, the engaged 10-step process helps organization consider engagement activities as a part of just such as a process. So if you have this 10-step process, which I'm going to discuss just after the slide, this will really help you to make it a process on a continuous basis, because it's not one time you create and you forget it. It's a continuous journey. Today the new, in a day, almost 3 lakh more new beacon comes in the industry. 3 lakh. In a month, more than 10,000 plus targeted attack happens with new techniques, new TTPs altogether, more than 10,000. And more than 1 million beacons are created every month. So if you want to make it as a process, then you definitely create a very well laid out standard operating procedures and a well-oiled machinery within the organization to create deception or adversary engagement as a part of day-to-day routine, not as one of the project or requirements. So Barton Valley, who has written the book, The Art and Science of Military Deception, it cost you around $230. It's a costly book. You know, when I was going through the book, I realized that this is something extraordinary actually. And this book is the basis of the entire Mitre Engage framework. So if anyone of you are interested, you should buy this Barton Valley book, Art and Science of Military Deception. While it is nothing to do with your cyber deceptions, but it is an amazing book for that. And there is a very interesting site of CIA, you know, where all the stories are kept. How the CIA has evolved, where the lesson was learned, where the CIA has failed, where the world, geopolitics has changed. Many such stories are available in the CIA website. I can share you the link, just remind me at the end of the class, I'll share you the link. Helps organization think through the process of adversary engagement. As I spoke earlier, adversary engagement is an iterative, goal-driven process, not merely deployment of technology stack. The Engage 10-step process, a refinement of work done by Barton Valley in the Art and Science of Military Deception. Technically, Engage helps organization think through the process of adversary engagement. What is the purpose? Purpose is know your enemy. If you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This is the statement from Sun Zhao in the book Art of War. If you know yourself, but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy or yourself, you will succumb in every battle. So if you want to put deceptions, adversary engagement in place, and you want to win the cyber warfare, you must know the enemy and you must know yourself. Once you have both known to you completely, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Every battle you are going to win. So these are the, 3 large steps, and these are the 10 deeper steps. Okay. First is the prepare. The step 1 is assess knowledge of adversary and your organization. How do you do that? First, you must know how secure you are. Suppose you have found a beacon. The APT28 is beacons has been seen by yourself. Okay. Now, you must check your environment for readiness against APT28. Because if it has come to you and you are an organization which is being hit by it, you must know that your entire organization is protected against APT28. That is the first step. Access knowledge of your adversaries and our knowledge. How you access the knowledge of your adversaries from one single beacon? Use the beacon, go back to the Mitre attack framework, see that what particular technique has been utilized, and within the technique, what are the action groups are there. Then analyze those groups and create a cluster of that and see all the processes. And also see the build the countermeasures against those processes. And then check in your organization whether you are fit for purpose or not. Unless you know your adversary and unless you know your organization, your battle is a chance, 50% chance that you will survive or you will lose. Second step, once you know about yourself and know about your adversary, I'm not saying you know everything about adversary, because deception or adversary engagement process is all about knowing more about them. So determine your operational objective is the second most important game. Third, determine how you want your adversary to react. So when you are actually defining the operational objectives and creating your network environment for that, or the application environment or OS environment for that as a part of your environment management, you in your storyboarding, you have to define how you want adversary to react. You want to send a beacon to your network and go to the next machine. You will have to plan it out very meticulously about that. Then determine what you want adversary to perceive, what adversary should feel about you. Because that is the most important thing for creating a perceptual bias. Let me stop here. I'll take you to somewhere else actually. Give me 1 second. Because I talked about it a lot, but possibly I have not discussed about it. Okay. You all are able to see my screen, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the common perceptual and cognitive biases are, there are many, but these 4 are the most important one. One is perceptual bias. As an adversary, you need to know the environment is consistent as per your expectations. And as a defender, you must create the environment which will make the adversary comfortable, and expectation is as per the adversarial requirements. Now think about it. Suppose if APT 28 has come, and in one of the steps in APT 28 is your privilege escalation. So there are very well set out processes for privilege escalation. They use, sometime Empire PowerShell or component of memory cards to generate, get access to it and then generate, next layer of privilege access. You know that this particular beacon has a linkage with APT 28. So if I create a trap where the adversary can use its capability, then adversary will become very comfortable. So if you are changing the perceptual biases, it creates resistance. So always when you are planning you are on the drawing board and planning for your adversary engagement plans, always think about, are you meeting the perceptual bias, or are you able to manipulate the perceptual bias based on your new environment? Many times the biases are there in evaluating the evidence. Now the machine is actually a small piece of code. Who is your adversary? Adversary is not sitting in your machine, small piece of code. When the code is written, the biases has been created for evaluating the evidences. Now, if you can manipulate those evaluating evidence the way the adversary is thought of, then it will be very, very consistent and the adversary will disclose more. But if there is a missing information, it is difficult to judge well the potential impact of missing evidence, even if the information gap is known. And third one is the biases in estimating probabilities. Now, when the codes are written, it has got what if conditions. They are all simple piece of codes, this is scripts. So if what if conditions are there, if this is there, this should be there. This is there, this should be there. So if what if conditions are all about estimating probabilities. And that is where the role of OODA comes into the place, that as a adversary engagement plan, how you are going to change this biases estimating probability in favor of the attacker. And the last one is the perceiving causality. One of the most important component within the rationality, events are seen as a part of an orderly and causal pattern. When you create a randomness in the pattern, the adversary becomes suspicious actually. So suppose if attacker is sitting in a machine and that machine has got some patterns, that patterns are being analyzed by the machine, by the adversary. Now, if you create a synthetic environment, which is not consistent with the environment where he is sitting, it will create a sense of suspicion, and that's dangerous for your goal, operational excellence. So some of the very interesting things, two story I'll share. I'll not share much because we'll run out of time. The 10 steps are important, and after that, how to mature your processes. Okay. If you remember 1998, Indian nuclear test. Okay. American had a clear cognitive bias. Conducting nuclear tests risk international condemnation and US sanctions, and would threaten a newly elected coalition government. This was the bias created in the mind of Americans. And it was so strong, they could never believe that somebody will do like this. Had that 1% inkling, they would have created ways to stop it. While they missed it, but this perception was so powerful, they could not see anything else. What was the second, line which they missed to observe is a successful and surprise nuclear test could boost Indian nationalist pride and solidify public support for a SECI coalition government. How this bias has been created? It has been very potentially planned well in advance. That bias remains there that, we fear American sanctions. India fear American sanctions, will not go anything against American sanctions. A very interesting cognitive bias has been created, which led the American believe that it will never happen. And there are many such stories that I'll share you the slide. You can look for it. You can search in the Googles and do it. They are very interesting slide. I took this slide from a CIA book, and that book is in public domain. If you all are interested, I'll share the book and not waste time here. But common perceptual and cognitive bias sometimes become so powerful that you start ignoring the facts which are available around you. If you can create such cognitive and common perceptual bias in the mind of the adversary, trust me, you will be able to manipulate the mind of the adversary the way you want to do it. Even though it is a piece of code, you will be able to manipulate that code and make them vomit every piece of information they have inside their organization. One more slide before I go to the next one, the 10th step. Gambit of deception. If the entire life cycle of deception starts from behavior, affect, sense making, perception, and attention. It goes the other way around. And if you look into the attention, control attentions, conspicuity and expectancies, big move cover the little moves, the target looks where you look, attention drops at perceived in, and the last one is repetition reduces vigilance. And when you look into the behavior, simulate the actions, simulate the outcome, time shift perceived behavior, finally diverse behavior from the outcome, and last one is the channel behavior. This is a very interesting piece of CIA books, which is used for the deception, capability of their team. I have taken from a book. It will be good to really read and, understand from it. I have got a full 5-day session, 80-hour session dedicated on this topic actually. When you prepare, determine the channels to engage with your adversary. Channels will come from your network, from your application, from your OS, from your systems, from your other technical components which are available as a part of the network. And very important to determine the success and gating criteria. Because if you are very biased and you are allowing the attacker to continue with a selfish desire to know more, you might cross the barrier and attacker can still be successful. So it is always important to determine the success and getting criteria as a part of the preparation, as a part of the plan. Otherwise, if you cross those toll gates, many times the attacker may enter into some weird sphere which you are not aware about it. And then it can cause damage to the organization. Seventh step is execute your operation. Once you have done it, execute your operation, which means the planning has been put into action. Now you have to monitor them and you have to be vigilant about every step that happens. The operate plan will have all the necessary controls for monitoring, and understand piece will be coming from your analysis. So step 8, turn the raw data into actionable intelligence. Whatever data you are generating out of that environment, packet capture data, the flow data, your application log data, your system log data, your browser log data, the applications, manipulation data, all logs need to be converted into actionable intelligence so that you can improve your next postures and also create a countermeasure on the organizations against that particular group. Always look for feedback intelligence, whether it is really true or not. Many times, even the attackers nowadays, particularly if you look into APT 41, they created a bit of bias and mislead you for other side of investigation. So it's not only from the defender side, many times even the attacker side. APT 41 is a classic example for that, which try to divert the attentions to a smaller thinky thing and you focus it there and they will operate somewhere else. So always take the feedback on the intelligence, say whether it is true, whatever is coming is truth by looking into the Mitre attack as well as looking into situational awareness within the organization, then finalize that this is potentially an actionable intelligence. Analyze success and failure to inform future actions. Anytime, whenever you go into the adversary engagement, there will be some reason of failures, there will be some reason of success. Document it, share it, don't commit the same mistake, and your future actions or threat models improve based on that requirement. Very simple 10 steps, not very cumbersome. Details are there, is a part of the larger training plans. We have 20 days training programs on adversary engagement. And possibly some of you might be interested for that. We'll have a larger training sometime down the line. Next important component is what is the bare minimum essential mission essential task as a part of the entire engagement operation. So mission essential tasks are core activities that must be completed during the planning, execution, and analysis phase of an engagement operation to be exemplary. The success of any mission is dependent upon 3 critical components: planning, do it right, first time, do it right, execute it the way you have planned it, and finally analyze it, all the phases, so that engagement operations become exemplary. Never leave anything to chance because you are playing with fire. If any machine is compromised within the organization, why the organizations always go for denial? Just because they don't want to play with the fire. They don't know how to play with the fire. If they know that, we can know more about it, with a small damage happens in 4 or 5 systems and some resource burning will happen, but I'll know more about the, and motive of this particular attacker. Possibly organization will be more focused toward doing the deceptions and operations, engagement operations. And they will definitely make it exemplary if they find full value out of it. So there are certain tasks we must do as a part of the overall mission essential task. First of task is establish getting criteria. Never get biased that I have to continue and finish. I know to know everything about this malware. No. Identify exit criteria and appropriate escalation procedures. What is the time when you will leave this operation? It can be at the time when the operational excellence has already been achieved, or at a time when things are going awry. That is the time the toll gate will be created and you will exit from this operation and isolate the machine. So what are option you have with you? Isolate the machine. This is one of the very critical, or switch off some services, switch off the system, switch off, you have to cut it off actually. So identify exit criteria and approach exclusion procedure is one of the critical component of gating criteria. To achieve this, you must define the operational success, because operational success toll gate has to be defined as a part of the gating criteria. And never leave things to chance. Always establish acceptable level of risk. ये 5 machine compromise होना तक बर्दाश्त कर सकते. I cannot tolerate the servers getting compromised. Establish that acceptable level of risk. And then define acceptable response time also. How much minute, second I will take to knock it off. Many times using security or orchestration system, SOAR tool becomes a very important, way of defining acceptable response time. If you want to have a toll gate defined, if I fail it in this toll gate, I must shut it off and shut down the machines. You can set the SOAR rules where the moment that has been missed, automatically the trigger will happen and actions will be performed based on your acceptable, objectives and within the acceptable response time. So establishing a gating criteria is a part of your plan. It must be documented as a part of your storyboarding. And then similar criteria is matched, either you exit or you do the escalation procedures. Second one is create engagement narratives. Engagement narrative is a very important component of your engagement of adversary. To create a perceptible truth that the adversary is living in the right place and the place is free from any ambiguity. For that, you must create personas. Don't leave things chance. I know that, organization like Ativo and what is that, a smoke screen type of company, they create personas and it remains there forever. They don't change it. Nobody accesses those systems. System stories are speaking different. It will give a doubt in the mind of the adversary and he will not eat. Create a proper persona as a part of the initial plan of Mitre engage framework. Not at the time when you are planning to, childs are, I'll tell you, the way the anonymous creates say ID, okay? Normally nobody says that. Suppose if I am exposed, then digitally biology has to die. Okay? So I'll delete all the IDs, everywhere my death will be pronounced. A small uthala will be performed in all the newspaper, important newspaper. And a new persona is created somewhere. Now, suppose if I want to create a persona in Ireland, I'll create a persona. But if I speak Hindi there or English there, will it be perceptible truth? No. If I am creating a persona in Russian, I must speak Russians. Otherwise, there will be no truth in it. So creating a persona, treating like a child, celebrating the birthday, celebrating the marriage anniversary, celebrating the weddings, becomes a life cycle of it. We need to create persona and we treat those personas like a human being. And we have to create all the narratives based on that. Then the next important thing is that determining the storyboarding, how the storyboarding will look like. What is the place where it will go? How the, traversal of path will happen for the adversary? How will detect the, the path when the paths are being followed? That determining the storyboarding will become a important component of the plan. And then select the pocket leader. Why the adversary will believe that he is the same person? He will see the pocket leaders. He will trust it. If I say that I am traveling from Ireland to Iran, suppose if my if I have not traveled, I'll have the fake everything, including the visa, including the air tickets, including the hotel stay there in Ireland. These are pocket letters. So use the same pocket letters, same thoughts pocket letters for that persona in that computers, whatever connected is there. Next important component is there, define pattern of life of personas. If your person is born, is working in your office, you definitely need to have a pattern of the life of the personas. Machine cannot be sit ideals. Nobody is working on that machines. There is no logs are being generated. Always see that persona has been created. So somebody will log in. You can automate these things. You don't need to have people there. You can automate it. But many times machine also see whether it is a human machine interface or it is a virtual, system. If it is a virtual systems, it will have a different, style. If it is a normal system, human machine interface is important. Whether the login has happened from the machine HMI or not can be judged by the small piece of code that is there in the malware. So create personas, determine store boarding, select pocket letters, define pattern of personas in a very consistent way so that engagement narrative fits into the idea of the adversary. And adversary becomes convinced. If adversary is not convinced, your operational success is guaranteed fail to deliver. Build out victim window systems. Now, one of the important thing is a part of your the entire adversary engagement mission is built out the victim window system. Now, if you are building a window system, it has to be consistent to the other systems. It cannot be an isolated systems, which is nowhere linked with the organization components. So computer system to meet the mission objective requirements. Use Microsoft deployment toolkit for operating system deployment. Okay. It's a very well laid out strategy and the reason why it has been done. Use tools for software provisioning, configuration management, and application deployment. Do it through Ansible, because it will automate the entire steps. If you have Ansible in your organization, it is very good to automate it, because if these things are kept at chance to be built at the time when it will happen, it doesn't happen on time. You need to automate these steps so that, when the machine need to be created, you have got the ISO image kept in the organization, ISO image is done. Then you build the entire deployment using Ansible or similar type of frameworks, automation framework, or many times you have a lot of RPA tool, robotic process automation tool, you can use one of them. Now, same thing you have to decide as a part of operational engagement. Are you going to use Linux team also as a part of it? Because sometimes what happens, the APT is more functional towards Linux, and if Linux is not there, then it will not work. So in the group, you should always plan to build out both, or if it is a window specific, memory card specific things, then you go for window system, doesn't matter. But it has to be the consistent with the machine of the attacker machines where the attacker is sitting right now. Deploy monitoring system to engagement. It's very important time how to deploy collection systems and how to establish security controls. Now, you don't want, the logs which are coming is getting deleted by the people. So can you do the memory of, and if you don't have EDR tool, don't worry about, you can use Sysmon tools. There are a lot of open source tools are there, which actually does the memory forensics. They keep the memory data, pump it somewhere where you can do the analysis using, any important analyzer. Actually, Sysmon comes with the analyzer as well. You can use that. But if you have the EDR, you can have the deploy collection systems, use that, memory forensics on a real-time basis, and keep it separately for further analysis. One very important thing particularly for deploying the systems, other systems, not the compromised systems, establish security controls. Some security control. It should not that, the machine, is taken over completely, reformatted, or anti-forensics are established. So that when you are trying to find the forensics, nothing is there. So you must deploy some security controls which safeguards the availability of the evidence at every point of time. This requires some bit of system engineering at the bits and byte level, at operating system level. It is good, but don't make it so tight that they don't disclose anything. You have to always choose the best path where you force, because what is the important part of adversary engagement? You have to force the adversary to divulge what you want them to divulge. So when you establish security control, leave certain things uncontrolled, but only those things leave it controlled, which is a part of your storyboarding. Now, the next important thing is deploy personas and deceptive asset to the engagement environment. Because once you have finalized everything, next thing is how to deploy it. So build Active Directory file app server is one of the strategy within the environment. Connect client to that environment. Litter both servers and client. Don't litter only the clients, because the moment the attacker start touching it, and they are all fake environment. It can be, virtual environment, or you can have a physical environment. I'll let you to decide based on the threat perceptions and availability of monitoring systems are concerned. So don't litter only on the clients, but leave the pocket litter also in the server, so that they feel that this is the server. There should be some logs, there should be some accesses, everything should be, and all these things can be done through automated means. There's no human intervention required. If you have a server, you can do joining on the network through the scripts. From one of the machine, you can use the script. We can keep it one way, isolated from the network. Keep creating the environment and create a clear VLAN for this environment within the integrated network, or if it is isolated network, no problem. Last one is establish connectivity with alliance with the storyboard and persona. Like somebody is a teleworker. Okay, his machine is teleworker, then VPN has to be there. So if VPN is not there in your systems, then it will be seen that it is not a consistent story, and the attacker will not go further. Monitor operational activities. It's very important to monitor on a real-time basis. No question on that. I'll do the log analysis after 1 month. So conduct overwatch and observation on a continuous basis. If any changes in system happens, or any beacon is being sent to the network, everything has to be identified. One more thing is that identify the basic persistence in the system. Very important, because if they are sitting in your system, so what are the basic persistent? With particular, many times they use, specific in window, they use specific DLL files for persistence. So identify the basic persistence of this system, so that that they use this particular component on a continuous basis. Then finally identify the network activity, which is very critical for your success, both at flow level. Many times the beacons are sent at layer 2 level. Now, if you are not having layer 2 monitoring, then you will not be able to identify it. And second one is the packet capture. Packet capture will provide you a very good amount of information about the attackers. Many times DNS can be an important activity for monitoring. And also identify the probable lateral movement in the integrated environment or in the synthetic environment. Monitoring is one of the most operational activity for the entire game plan to be successful. So don't leave it to chance. It has to be humanly or automatically annotated, and triggers are sent to the right people for any changes in the parameters or any new thing identified in a real-time basis. Because the toll gating, the gating criteria is an important thing to monitor. If something has happened and we think it is crossing the gating criteria, then it needs to be shut down. So it has to happen through the automated means and not through manual means. And finally, forensically investigate victim post operations. Okay, go for forensics, do the memory forensics, do the memory images to establish the timeline of artifacts and go deeper into it. Analyze data from the live operation and forensic investigation. Always don't take chance that shut down machines and do the only live, do live forensics also as a part of the requirement. Identify artifacts from the live operational data in the post-op rest data, data at rest data. Document findings if you find anything, inform existing threat model and CTI data so that CTI feed can be sent to the outside world for safeguarding against the similar type of attacks. And threat models, should change based on the new story or new perception that we have created based on the journey. Conduct open source intelligence searches pre-post operations. Very important because this will provide you a 3-dimension, to your activity, the entire, game plans. Because this will help you establish sometime the motives of the organization. Okay, I think I have reached the last slide of me. I'm a little ahead of time, 126. Good. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are ready to go for a discussion for next 20-minute time. I kept 30 minutes only for that purpose. Here you go. So for me, I try to cover all the steps. I don't know how much it has come to your brain at this point of time, but I'm sure when you go through the videos couple of times more, you will be able to find more deeper analytics. And I'll send you some of the books so that you become operationally ready to take this opportunity forward and carry these messages to rest of the community in the country.
Sir, we understood, Vikas here, we understood your clear discussion and points. The only thing is how we implement as a practical, okay, will tell us that, where we are actually, how we, because it's a very disciplined thing which we need to follow, and you need to put some time and effort in it, a serious effort and time to it. You have to be very serious. Let me see how can I start this in my organization and give a perspective that we want to do something. Maybe we start on a small scale basis, okay, and then we go on slowly and identify a resource where these things can be a contributor to it. But the message is clear. So I can't hear you. Are you on mute, sir?
So absolutely bang on, you must start, small or big, doesn't matter. You must start thinking about this direction because this is an art to be acquired. And this art and science should be converted into an actual war game. As I said at the beginning of my speech yesterday, cyber is a war. It is not just somebody attacking you just like that. It's a war. And they follow military discipline. As a defender, we need to follow the same war principles. And deception and decoys and adversary engagement is a part of the game. So when you are on the same type of warfare, somewhere, because we need to start for that. Doesn't matter small or big. And I'm sure that, 1 or 2 small success will provide you a larger insight to it. And one thing I have told at the beginning and now, don't look for technology. Build your own capability. Building your own automated virtual machines, network segregations, using security of orchestration tool for furthering the goals. With minimum resources, you'll be able to build these capabilities. It does not require billions or millions. It requires a mindset and understanding of the subject. We have a very detailed training, 20 days training, notes I have already prepared. I've not done this training anywhere on the earth so far, but more than 30 use cases are there, which can be as it is, can be implemented in any organization. So anytime, if anyone of you are interested, group of people are interested, I'll be more than happy to provide you very intensive training on the subject. I am planning to do it for one military organization. I can't talk now, but game is all set actually.
Yes, Balaji, it is so nice. And what I am looking at is that we are entering into the area of, as you said, science and art of this cyber world. We are setting narratives here. We are, as we are also here to set narrative of Indian narrative, we put, and the area of soft power we also talk of. So I think we are also entering in the cyber world. in this area. I am sure that you must be using extensive AI, artificial intelligence, deep learning techniques, because so many data are automatically captured, analyzed, and given signals to the systems which can behave like humans, not letting know others that it is not a human or whatever. So, and sometimes I interact with data scientists and other people and also statisticians. So what I feel that this kind of statistical background like regression, correlation, rank correlation, and all those understanding which actually connects to the real incidences. Even data sciences are also having their own limitations. They do the analysis, but they do not know what really the analysis is. So for that, you need to go to the basics of data science, which is statistics, and there, what kind of correlation, what kind of regression, what kind of multiple regression is giving you what connect at the ground level. So I think these areas can also be accommodated when you are taking this journey forward, and the manner in which you are traversing science and art of this cyber world, you are the right person for that in my views. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm just sending
Sir,
links.
echo the thoughts. Echo the thoughts. Perfect. Thank you very much for the 2 days. Really obliged, really great in depth. Lots of personal learning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm sending a WhatsApp link. If any one of you are not part of that, please be part of that. And I'm also sending you one Telegram link. Is a larger community I'm building for Cyber Rakshak. Okay, you all are very insightful people. You know, I asked you people to pay some money. You know, the purpose was not to get the money. Purpose was to get the like-minded people, because if you pay the money, you know that you are serious about it. So that, you know, the masses carries down the society. So thank you so much, you know, really appreciate that. And I'm sharing you on Telegram link. It's a very large group. Don't get hassled about the group, but I trust me that, you know, that group, you know, once it crosses 10,000, it's already 6,000, 5,900 something. We'll make it really vibrant by providing so many things you might not have thought of it actually. I have a lot of stuff to share, but need to be very structured way of place for sharing. So I'll really love if you all can join that group. Okay, I'll send you in a while. Here I've sent you a link for WhatsApp. Please join here. That will really help me keeping track of some of the like-minded people, particularly for. And I'll be sharing you guys a lot of books, interesting books. Please do read, you know, because reading makes you perfect. You know, you can practitioners, you know, start with reading actually. So you can join that.
Sir, do send the Telegram link also, sir. Please do send the Telegram link.
I'm just
Thank
sending
you.
in a minute. Yeah.
Good afternoon, Balaji. From yesterday, continuously sitting in this session, and this is a very interesting session, and it gives a new insight to all participants. I think those are already working in this area, they must have got some new insight, and for me, it is just like an adventure. So certainly will be part of your team, and whatever. Time and management has to be invested. I will certainly try to invest it and do something good for this area.
I've shared the Telegram group also. Around 5,300 people are already there. So be part of that community. Sometime it will remain inactive. Sure. Put your notification on. But I'm just waiting for 10,000. I think another 20 days we'll have more than 45,000 people here. So Burgess, you know, how did you like the session? How is your experience and what you all are doing in your consulting organization on adversary tracking? Burgess, I think you are on mute if you want to speak.
Can you hear me, sir? Sorry, I wasn't able to. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, yes, very much.
Sorry,
Nice
sir.
to hear
So,
your voice
thank you,
after
sir.
a long time.
Yes, sir. So, if I was saying thank you very much for the multiple insights you gave for the last 2 days. I think lots of learning for us, to be honest, and see where we can utilize that. I'd like to connect with you personally and use some of the techniques which you mentioned for ourselves and for a few of our clients. Happy to work with you, sir. Very, very, very interesting. And also,
Thank you
as you
so much.
mentioned, happy to contribute, collaborate, whatever is the investment from our side. Very, very happy to do that, sir.
Sure.
Completely happy to work with you under your leadership and support this, sir. Whatever you think, I'll be very happy. I'll connect with you offline, one-on-one. But very,
Sure,
very
anytime,
last
anytime.
2 days is very interesting, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ram, Sandeep ji.
So that's your numbers there, sir. That's your numbers
Yeah,
you put there.
these are two are my number. First one is WhatsApp
Perfect, sir.
number, and second
Sure,
one
sir.
is my direct number.
Thank you, sir.
Dilip, Shani, Sandesh, Sunil ji, Amitav.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For me, sir, it's really always a learning session, sir. Attending your lectures and seminars. It's always something new to learn every time. Definitely, we used to try to implement a few things in our organization. So let's see. Hope for best, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
And, yes, sir. Thanks for all your sessions, sir.
Wonderful.
बालाजी,
Yes, sir.
आप एक काम कीजिए, आप next 5-6 week जो आपको scheduled है, and means I will say weekend, let's declare ahead of time, like you did for this couple 2 session. But let's plan for the next couple of, because it's very interesting. All of us are so much fond of your classes. We are appreciating and we are so much liking it, your story, your conversation, the way you are presenting, the kind of efforts you are having, the kind of passion you are actually pouring. That's more important, the kind of energy you are reflecting, radiating all the time. So, so we want to capitalize on that. So, आप उसको declare कीजिए, so that we should organize and align our time, and we should not miss, and we should be in fact changing you. कि बालाजी इस टॉपिक में सब्जेक्ट क्लास कंडक्ट करो, एंड बहुत जल्दी करो, लेकिन ज्यादा डिले नहीं करना, काम बहुत है.
Do that surely. Thank you.
क्योंकि बहुत काम है, बहुत सारी चीजें सामने दिख रही हैं, पर्टिकुलरली डेटा सिक्योरिटी को लेके, एंड मजा आ रही है. मतलब amazing customer base and nice story going with the customer, lot of likability is there, but taking this persona of your expression and then further taking to the client level and talking to them, वो तुरंत पानी मंगाते हैं हमारे लिए, जाते हैं वहां पे ना, बोलते हैं पानी मंगाओ इसके लिए पहले. So they give kind of respect and regard, though this coming out as advisory and consultant, but their likability goes high. So अब आप कमी मत करो, and थोड़ा सा काम बढ़ेगा आपका.
No worry. You know, I have dedicated rest of my life for cyber education. So
excellent, excellent. And
rest of life. At the age of 50, I took off. Last 3 years, you know, I'm working on one thing. As a matter of fact, you know, for you people's knowledge and information, in next 65 days precisely, we have an online program which government of Jharkhand is made it mandatory for all UG students.
Okay.
Semester 2, 3 lakh students will undergo is intensive, irrespective of streams. Okay, they're going to undergo a training on cyber defense, which covers basic of cyber defense. It covers how to harden your mobile phone, including at kernel level, how to use, you know, the government CDAX Kavach 2 in their systems to protect against potential Pegasus and hidden applications. Train them how to avoid the frauds. We'll be teaching about 100 different technique of fraud, including all the new technique of frauds. Then we are going to teach them how to avoid those frauds. And if it has happened, how they are going to manage the frauds effectively and get the money back within 3 hours time. How to report it to 1930 or cybercrime.gov.in, how to file even the charge sheet, because police people do not know how to file the charge sheet. We're going to teach them how to file the charge sheet. And each of these 300 people, 3 lakh people, will cover 100 people mandatory to create an awareness across the state. We are going to reach the 3 crore population next 65 days time. This will be one of the biggest event in cyber security or cyber defense in the history of mankind.
Wow. Are you still in Ranchi?
Yeah, I'm still in Ranchi. Yeah, that's right.
अरे वहां सेशन कंडक्ट कर रहे हो? Wow.
और क्या सारा चीज रांची से हो रहा है क्योंकि because we are working very closely with government. So government of Jharkhand is doing something awesome. Actually, the one gentleman is there, Mr. Purwar, and a lot of good vice chancellors in the university there. One vice chancellor is Mr. Dev is there in Vinova University, is taking really lead and making things happen. Whatever little dream I had, taken the Sankalpa, I'll make it 1 million cyber army in next 5-year time. I think I'll be able to do it very consistently in very short span of time.
Lucky they got you.
Not like that, you know. That if I'm not
We
there,
had to start from Jharkhand because Jamtara being there.
yeah, that's right. You know, so one of my speech I gave it in one work was there, which is the name of this entire game plan in Jharkhand is Project Arav. I'll send you people the link. You can have a look of that. You know, you'll understand where we are coming from. As a part of the Project Arav, the first speech was that, you know, Jamtara is a black spot in the history of Jharkhand. I cannot erase that history. History is a history to remain part of it. But can I create the biggest golden spot where this black spot becomes negligible actually? And 1 million cyber army plan is exactly for that actually. And we are going to build the Israel way, the world's largest and the best cyber defense corridor on the earth in next 5-year time.
Fantastic.
चलो फिर यूनिफॉर्म पहनते हैं और रेडी रहते हैं. Let's.
All the best. Yeah. Good, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being part of this small 2-day journey. We'll continue to be part of it and look forward to.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Balaji, where you publish Telegram link?
I send it to the same Telegram chat only.
मुझे नहीं, I'm not in that group. Looks like CREF Mitre. No,
I have sent you in the meeting chat. Can you go and click the WhatsApp link, WhatsApp and Telegram link? This is a t.me.
Adversary engagement.